The Colts have completed their 2024 NFL draft class and added versatility, athleticism, and overall playmakers. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs, which helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Just post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. What is up, everybody? This is Jake, Arthur, and Zach Hicks from horseshoehuddle.com. And the draft, sadly, is over. Day 3 of the draft was today, rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. The Colts, of course, did a little more wheeling and dealing, and as a result, they had 6 picks today, bringing them to a total of 9 in the draft class after having 12 last year. So as we know, Chris Ballard loves them picks. He's always going to acquire more than what he came in with. So we already thought a pretty good deal about the first couple days, Zach. This third day, they did add some names that we had mentioned to look out for. So that makes us look smart, obviously. But I thought it was a really interesting group. Overall, I thought the draft class wasn't so strictly set into their normal parameters or types for certain positions. But overall, I thought they got guys with a lot of versatility. They still went with guys with high RAS or at least athleticism if they lacked size. But overall, I'm interested by the guys that they got on day 3. We're going to go through rounds 4 and 5 first, 6 and 7, including the reported undrafted free agents to this point. And then we're going to finish this thing up talking about what we still think they probably need out of this draft class. So, Zach, just going through this first group here, 4th round, Tanner Bortolini, 5th round, Oregon State wide receiver Anthony Gould, followed by Missouri linebacker Jaylon Carlies and Auburn corner Jaylin Simpson. What are you thinking of this round 4 and 5 group?
Yeah, I really like the round 4 and 5 group. I mean, look, we've talked about Tanner Bortolini quite a bit this pre-draft process, especially of late. You can go back and listen to the episode that me and Destin did the week of the draft here, and we talked about Tanner Bortolini quite a bit in that one and how the fit made sense, how he looks like he could be the future at center for the Colts behind Ryan Kelly. To scoop him up in round 4, I think made a lot of sense for this team. So really, really like that selection. And then Anthony Gould as well. I mean, we talked about him last night on the show going into today, where it's like, look, the Colts need someone who can handle these return responsibilities. Anthony Gould, one of the best return men in college football over the past couple seasons. Last year, he had 2 years ago, he had 2 punt returns for a touchdown. At the East-West Shrine Bowl, he had a punt return for a touchdown. Can do a lot of those Isaiah McKenzie gadget type things after the catch and in the backfield with motion. So I thought those 2 offensive picks were really good there to start off the day. And then the 2 defensive picks were 2 guys moving positions, which we know Chris Ballard loves guys who play multiple positions. Jaylin Simpson, Jaylon Carlies, they are 2 guys that fall into that exact same mold of the EJ Speeds, the Jelani Woods, those guys who moved around in college, where Carlies moved from safety to linebacker a little bit more in college, and the Colts are going to stick him at linebacker. And then Simpson, he went from corner to safety at the college level, and they're going to move him back to corner here with the Colts. So a little bit of interesting movement there with those 2 guys, but overall, I really liked rounds 4 and 5 quite a bit, especially with those 2 offensive guys at the top, and then Carlies and Simpson. I think you have 2 developmental players who can do a lot for this team.
Yeah, Bortolini seemed like a shoo-in. Again, that's the guy we've been talking about for weeks. Would have been cool getting him in round 3. Round 4 was the sweet spot, but that's a guy with position versatility. He's played tackle, guard, and center. Like, he's played all over the place. And when you're getting a Wisconsin offensive lineman, you're getting a guy that's ready to play right away wherever you need him. So after what they did in round 3 with Gonzalez and now Bortolini, I really like those depth moves. considering they weren't going for immediate starters. They got a couple guys who, the way they talk about them, if they needed to start, if they needed someone to threaten Will Fries or something, I think they'd be comfortable with it. But right now they're going to play really key depth roles, which I like. We've mentioned what it looks like next year with your entire interior being free agents other than Quentin Nelson, basically. So I love what they did there. Gould seems interesting, if for nothing else, then I mean, I think he's going to give you something limited offensively, but as a return man, the Colts went into this knowing that the kick game was going to be more important than it has been with the new rules. And so they were intentional about getting a good return man. So that I thought was a good move. Carlies, I'm always very interested by the safety linebacker hybrid type guys. And Carlies actually, as a freshman, played cornerback at Missouri as well.
There we go.
Has moved all over the place. You mentioned EJ Speed. So did Chris Ballard when talking about Carlies today. So they really like him. Talked to Tyler Hughes, the area scout, about him. And I said, I know it's really collaborative between the scouts and the coaches in there. Was Cato June able to give a fresh perspective on that, having made the exact same transition? And did that make you more confident in selling Carlies to the rest of the room as your guys? And that it was a resounding yes, because Richard Smith really loves him too, the linebackers coach. And Smith and June have a plan for Carlies. So that is a guy that definitely helps your pass coverage linebacker issues. Doesn't maybe solve them, but it definitely helps, I think. And then Simpson, I like the move, but I think I would have kept him at free safety. Because you really don't know who your starting free safety is right now. Maybe the Colts do. But at cornerback, I don't think there's any really chance of him threatening for serious snaps right now. But I thought if you throw him in there at free safety and he has a good camp, why couldn't he potentially be the starter? You know what I mean? So they may still tool around with that. But overall, I did like this group that they brought in rounds 4 and 5.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the last two guys a little bit more again. Carlies at linebacker, he's such an interesting player because he reminds me so much of Divine Diablo with the Raiders. When Gus Bradley and Richard Smith were there with the Raiders. They were there with the Raiders. They took a Virginia Tech safety who was 220 plus pounds, tested fairly well at that size. They took him, moved him to linebacker, and then in year one, despite being a day 3 pick, he was seeing legit snaps at will. He was seeing legit snaps on passing downs and making some plays for that defense. So I think when we're looking at these day 3 guys, the two guys that stand out to me that are really going to make an impact from day one are Gould and Carlies. Like, those guys are going to be on the field this year, not only on special teams, but also a little bit on offense and defense respectively. So I do think that those guys have a good chance here in year one of getting on the field. And then to talk about Simpson, I do think the traits line up way more with more of a cornerback than with a safety, because in today's NFL, with the way that teams want to run the ball now, because teams are defenses are going so heavy into the too high look, you want to run the ball a little bit more. So once teams start transitioning more into the run game, you need safeties who can tackle. We saw last year with Rodney Thomas. If you have a safety who can't tackle, it's a pretty big liability. And throwing out Simpson, who's 178 pounds, 179 pounds there at safety, that could be a pretty big liability for you. So I think, like you said, they can be creative with it. I think they can move him around a little bit. But personally, for me, I think I would actually prefer him at corner because I like the length, I like the ball skills, I like the past experience there, and I feel more comfortable about him being on the outside or even in the slot potentially with his movement ability. Rather than being a guy who has to come down and run the alley and fill run lanes. I think that just concerns me a little bit more there. But a lot of versatility in this group, a lot of guys who can do multiple things. I think they took some good shots here on early day 3 with these 4 players. I'm really, really high on a lot of these guys. And again, Carlies and Gould, I think we're going to see a ton of here in 2024.
Yeah, and I want to give you kudos because I know you're always looking for that next Divine Diablo. And Tyler Hughes actually did refer to Divine Diablo, saying their coaching staff has experience with a guy like that, and pointed at Divine Diablo. So that's kind of their blueprint. Is
Yep.
If
the
you were going to go back and know
pick,
that they're going to use them that way.
They made it. The second they made that pick, I was like, there it is. There is this staff's Divine Diablo. I was looking for it the last couple years with Gus because that was such a hit for that staff. Like that was a massive hit for that coaching
Oh,
staff
yeah.
there with the Raiders. I mean, they grabbed him in round 5, round 6 there with the Raiders, and he's been a solid player for them for years. So that was such a big hit. I knew they would want to go back to it one day, but I lost hope. I lost hope they weren't going to find it.
Yep.
But Carlies, yeah, 100%. That is their Divine Diablo here. So I'm very, very high on that fit. I think his tackling is a little concerning, but overall, I'm very high on that fit in Indy.
Yeah, I mean, great athletic profile too, great frame. So we're going to move along and talk about the guys who they picked up in round 6 and 7, and then as well as some of these reported UDFAs as well. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals who are actually right for the role. You don't just want to fill them with bodies because then you got to replace them again anyways. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board either, because it helps you hire professionals that you can't really find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but they might be open to the perfect role if they're picking up what you're putting down. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. And on LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong places. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode of your favorite Locked On podcast is brought to you by the best meal kit service in the game, Home Chef. No more having to answer the dreaded question, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Thanks to Home Chef and their chef-designed recipes that are delivered directly to my door, all pre-packaged, pre-portioned. They even peel the garlic cloves for you. And each recipe, one of my favorites, blackened mahi, comes with a full page of easy-to-read instructions that include customization options and pictures to guide you along the way through the step-by-step process, so you don't have to ask, is that what chard looks like? I cannot recommend Home Chef enough, especially right now, because for a limited time, Home Chef is giving Locked On listeners 18 free meals, free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box if you head to homechef.com/lockedon today. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Yes, you heard that right. Homechef.com/lockedon. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
And speaking of Home Chef, Chris Ballard and company were cooking going into round 6 and 7. Round 6 was one of the first real moments of the draft. And that was Marshall cornerback Mike Abraham. Not shocking for a cornerback at all, but you go look at him. He's well under 6 foot, obviously. What was it? I don't have it in front of me, but it's like, he's like 5'9", 180 or something like that. Something in that ballpark. So obviously far under the 6'1", 190, 200 pounds that we normally see. But then I was like, okay, so there's got to be some outstanding trait about him that they love. I go and look at his stats, and the guy's a ball magnet. He had over 40 pass breakups, 12 picks. The guy knows how to create turnovers. He harasses the ball, and he's got versatility to play inside and out. He's also got a great football and NFL bloodline. Tim Jennings, the former Colts cornerback, he was okay here with the Colts, but then went and exploded with the Chicago Bears. That's his cousin. His dad was a corner in the NFL. I of course forget his name right now, but he coaches in the UFL, XFL, whatever it is, with the Battlehawks. So that's a guy who's grown up around football, grown up around professional football with direct family members in it. So I'm kind of excited about him. Feels very Isaiah Rodgers-y to me. He's not going to be like the kick returner, but Rodgers was that guy with diminutive size, but had outstanding playmaking ability when he was playing defense. And it's kind of what it feels like with Abraham.
Yeah, it feels that way with Abraham and with Simpson. They added 2 smaller cornerback prospects who are good long speed. Obviously Abraham is not the all-around athlete that Isaiah Rodgers was. I mean, if you're looking at the RAS score or the RAS score, it's a 3. It's the lowest that Chris Ballard has ever drafted. It is insane when you actually look at it. Yeah. It's
I did
just not
ask
normal.
him what his I did ask him what his 40 time was though, because like he didn't have all those, like there wasn't, one of the major sites didn't really have all his stuff, and he said he ran in the 4.4s. So he's at least got decent speed.
Yeah, he ran in the low 4.4s, and I did have someone text me that his GPS time was over 22 miles per hour this past year. So he's not a bad athlete. Like, again, even when we're talking about the RAS scores and stuff like that, like, these guys are not bad athletes. They're just maybe bad for the NFL. But I think when you watch him on film, he's not a guy who screams bad athlete whatsoever. I mean, the 22 mile per hour GPS time definitely seems right to me when I watch some of his film. Big time ball magnet, really good recovery speed. Reminds me of a guy I liked a couple years ago at App State, Shamar Jean-Charles, who I think was a 6th rounder to the Packers a couple years back. It just reminds me a lot of that, where it's like, look, he's not this overwhelmingly great athlete, but he is a guy who just gets the job done and knows how to break up passes. So I ended up being a big fan of this, even though he was not on my radar whatsoever. So I think this is going to be my guy in this draft class just because of that. He's the only one I actually had to discover after the fact. So Micah Abraham, this is my Curtis Brooks, I think. I mean, hopefully it's a better ending this time, but I think this is my Curtis Brooks, Jake. I think this is going to be where I'm going to be planting my flag this offseason.
I dig it. Yeah, I definitely think among the late round guys who have a chance to do something, I definitely like his chances. It is a deep group at cornerback, but if you have the outstanding ability to take the ball away, that's going to get you places. The final draftee for the Colts, rounding out the 9-man class, Oklahoma defensive tackle Jonah Laulu. This is a guy who I believe you had in your mocks, so it's another guy who we kind of telestrated to the Colts throughout the process. Very interesting journey for this dude. 6-year player in college, 4 years at Hawaii, transferred 2 years at Oklahoma. In the 2 years at Oklahoma, was never a full-time starter. So I asked him, I was like, man, you've got this long 6-year journey, 2 years at Oklahoma. When did turning pro actually become a reality for you? And he said about the time he got to Oklahoma, and then of course not a combine guy, but he like killed the Big 12 pro day circuit, and that's kind of what I think not cemented him into the draft, because he was a 7th round pick, but like someone you want to take a flyer on and not have to risk the UDFA process essentially.
Yeah, no, I had a good buddy of mine text me early in the draft process. He worked with a lot of players and stuff, and he texted me early in the draft process and was like, "Look, there's this freaky dude at Oklahoma where he had some good games late in the season. I think teams are going to really like him, and he's going to just test out of this world." So that's when Luwalu really got on my radar, and then I got a message from him, I want to say like a month ago, where he was like, "Yeah, Indy's pretty high on him." So we'll see what happens there with that. And then I was like, okay, cool. So now I know to really check this guy, like really get in on him. So I did start, telling you guys a little bit more about Jonah Luwalu a lot in the past month or so. And I really like this pick. I mean, again, it's a deep defensive tackle group here in Indy. They have a lot of veterans, but it's a good place for a young guy like him to learn. I think he's only like 24 years old, 23 years old, hyper athletic. I know one of his first games at Oklahoma, he had a pick and then actually returned it for a good amount of yards from the defensive tackle position. So I like seeing the traits upside here. I really like seeing this pick. I know that the Colts area scout who was involved with making that pick was really pounding the table for him. So yeah, I think Luwalu is going to be a nice little developmental stash player here late in the draft. I'm a big fan of that one.
Yeah, Anthony Coughlin has earned the right to pound the table because, I mean, he got Jaylon Jones last year. So, and then let's run real quick through some of these UDFAs, which is news to me because when all those bullets were flying and everything, we were talking to the scouts. I did not know what was going on. Keaton Slovis is obviously a guy people know about, BYU, Pitt, and USC. I believe he was Michael Pittman's quarterback at USC.
Yep.
Jake Bean is someone who lightning fast quarterback, if I remember correctly. I saw you posted something about him. And then the rest are guys I do not know. So take it away.
Okay, I'll do my best here. First off, Jake Bean. I love Jake Bean so much as a Kansas Jayhawks fan at the college football level, because their offensive system is just the coolest system in all of football right now. Jake Bean is an absolute blast. And look, if you're looking for a quarterback who can operate the RPO type, like the RPO, the running game with the quarterback, Jake Bean, baby. And Slovis is no slouch either. Slovis can run a little bit too, and he came from an RPO heavy system this past year at BYU. So I do think these guys are more, maybe a little bit more than just camp arms. Like they're going to get a chance to compete here. Then we got Trent Penix, running back / tight end from NC State, was a hyper athletic player. I think like 235, 240 pounds, did a little bit of everything for NC State, can maybe do a little bit of that flanker, like fullback, like sniffer type role for the Colts. Really intrigued there. The other guys I'm not too privy on, but I did see that I think Joel Erickson tweeted out that they signed with the Colts. Xavier White, wide receiver from Texas Tech, Dalton Tucker, offensive lineman from Marshall, and Craig Young, linebacker from Kansas as well. Those are all your notable ones. There was a kicker from Notre Dame as well in there, but that's not a real position. So there we go. 7 undrafted free agents. I think we're good with the 7 because I don't think the Colts have much more roster space at the moment. We'll see what moves they make in the coming days. But so far, 7 undrafted free agents, pretty light class. I don't know if any of these guys have a chance at making the roster, but me personally, again, I love me some Jake Bean. I love Jake Bean, such a linear player, but when he gets going in that linear movement, he's gone. He is absolutely, he's so much faster than that 4.5 speed that he ran his pro day. Like when you watch him in college, you're thinking you're watching like 4.2. Like this dude is flying at quarterback. So he's just a blast to watch. I'm so excited for the preseason with Jake Bean.
4.5 speed for a quarterback still pretty good though too, and that's what Keaton Slovis had as well. So yeah, the Colts got some athleticism in that. Like Joe Flacco doesn't count because you're not even attempting it, but like it's like Sam Ehlinger is the bum athlete of the group now, and he was a often running quarterback at Texas. So you got some juice there. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. Coming up, guys, we're going to talk about where the Colts go from here. We believe that there were 2 positions the Colts still have to address, and we think they're coming sometime after the draft. But first, listen, guys, we've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure if you or your team can pull out a win, but that's when you dig deep, lift your head up and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends and get the most riches in the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly that you love, but on your phone anytime with lots of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, and charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. All right, Jake. So before we jumped on here, I was asking you for confirmation on Jaylin Simpson officially being moved to corner, or at least being tried out at corner to start off, because if they said they were going to keep him at free safety, that would have changed a little bit for me. But because I believe it was Jamie Moore said that they're going to try him at cornerback first, maybe a little bit in the slot as well. And then, we'll see where it goes. Because they're going to try him out at corner first, they didn't get any free safeties in this class. Absolutely 0 free safeties. So as of right now, the free safety depth chart is Rodney Thomas, maybe Daniel Scott, maybe Nick Cross, depending on where they see those guys as safeties. So I think when you're really looking at what need is going to be filled after the draft, especially with them having $25 million in cap space still, it's going to be free safety. Like I feel very comfortable saying they're going to go get a free safety some point after the draft. And it's why they made that move with the DeForest Buckner contract to free up cap space, because when you're looking at the free safety market, they can go out and get one now to be their starter next year.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that leading into the draft. They have this space, and it just makes the most sense to address what you weren't able to during the draft. Again, no safeties added. Even if Simpson was a free safety, that's a day 3 guy that you're counting on to maybe be the starter, which doesn't really move the needle much. So literally nothing changed there. It's Julian Blackmon and who. So if there's going to be any position, I think that gets addressed with free agency and some of that money, I think that makes sense. You can afford any of these guys that are on the market. Justin Simmons, you could afford. It's probably unlikely, but like Quandre Diggs, like even some of the bigger name guys you can go for and it would be fine. Corner, I don't think they're going to do it. They did add 2 guys. For my money, there are 2 guys at the bottom of the depth chart, but they added them. They just are intentionally going young at corner. We may not love it, but that's what they're doing. Like, that's just their plan. I think running back is the other position that I look at and say, okay, I think they're probably going to spend a little bit there. I don't think they'll wait and make it a UDFA thing, because you can't have confidence in that. I don't think there's a ton of noteworthy free agents out there still, but we just know they tried to do it during free agency. I don't think any great opportunities came up for them in the draft, but Chris Ballard afterward talked about they liked Trey Benson. They liked Brooks from Texas. Like, there was a couple guys they liked, but just too early for them to grab, I would think. But running back and free safety are the 2 positions that really stick out to me. They didn't do anything to tight end, but I don't think they have to. Wide receiver is going to be really competitive, and both lines are going to be really competitive. So I don't think they're going to do anything there. Nothing at least of note that's going to threaten anyone's position on the roster.
Right. Like we can potentially see a veteran cornerback signing, but I wouldn't count on it as much as I would a free safety signing. Like, I think the free safety signing is a lock. I think whether it's a huge one like Justin Simmons, whether it's a mid-tier one like Quandre Diggs, whether it's, another kind of mid-tier one like a Marcus May, like, I do think a free safety signing is almost certainly going to happen. And then I can almost say the same about running back. Like, to some degree, I expect there to be a running back signing. I don't know if it's going to be a massive one. I don't think there's any massive ones to make at this point, but it could be more of a mid-level to low-tier type signing there. But I do feel comfortable saying that those 2 positions are going to be addressed. Corner, again, little hit or miss, because they have like 6-7 guys on the roster they like right now. So, it's hard to cut. It's hard to like sign a veteran and cut those guys that you like when you already kind of confirmed to like them. So we'll see what they do there at the cornerback position. I would like a veteran option, but I understand if they don't go veteran, especially if they go get a big free safety like a Justin Simmons. It makes having very young cornerbacks a little bit more palatable, because they're protected back there with one of the best single high safeties in football, alongside Julian Blackmon, who's playing some good ball as well. So we'll see what the Colts do. I do think they're going to go get a free safety. One more thing I did want to touch on with you, Jake, and I know we're going to cover this a lot this offseason, but looking at this offense the Colts have put around Anthony Richardson going into this next year, I feel like, again, outside of maybe backup running back might be our biggest concern on that side of the ball. But outside of that, like, I know it's a lot of unproven guys, but this has to be a really good, deep, competitive offense that we're talking about in this Colts team. Like, I'm not saying it's up there with the top tier and talent-wise across football, but when you have a wide receiver room where, Ashton Doolin is back to being wide receiver 6, he's back to being at the bottom of the roster, and you have Adonai Mitchell, you have Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Alec Pierce at your top 4. That's pretty good on paper. You have offensive line where if someone goes down, you have players who can go out there and play and you feel comfortable. Young players you've invested in. The tight end room is not awful. Like, it's very strong, just like very solid. I don't want to say strong, very solid. And if Jelani Woods gets back to being what he is, then you're feeling good there. And then you have your franchise quarterback and your running back that you just paid a ton of money to. Like, this has to be the best offense that, sans Andrew Luck, this is the best offense that Chris Ballard is putting out there in his career with the Colts. So you got to be feeling pretty optimistic about this Colts offensive room right now.
Yeah, the offense wasn't much of a huge concern going into it anyways, because you were getting Anthony Richardson back, Jonathan Taylor healthy. You're returning a line that has been really good for the last year and a half, and they're healthy. You kind of addressed all the concerns in this one. Like, you needed an athletic field stretching receiver. You went and got it. You got someone in Anthony Gould, who literally his comp on NFL.com is Isaiah McKenzie. So you replaced him there, and that's primarily a kick returner anyways. Tight end was never a problem. Like, you got to imagine Will Mallory's going to get a little better. Jelani Woods, just by existing, will contribute. Drew Ogletree is back. Kylan Granson, even if he's the exact same. Like, your tight end group is very passable and acceptable. the offensive line like that's in this photo, they're building a fortress for Anthony Richardson. I feel great about the offense. It's all just depending on health. But as long as your main key players are healthy, it is smooth sailing. Mix that with the coaching, and there are no concerns on the offense.
Right. It really comes down. I mean, even when you say it comes down to health too, like obviously at quarterback, it definitely comes down to health, but the other positions too, they actually have depth. Like they have depth. Like last year, if Kelly or Fries or whoever were to miss a game, we're terrified. We're terrified about who has to go out there. If Michael Pittman Jr. misses a game, we're like, okay, cool. It's the Alec Pierce show, like by himself, basically. Maybe Josh Downs during his rookie wall. Now they have guys at receiver, with Doolin coming back, with Mitchell coming in, with Gould coming in. Now they have guys on the offensive line with Bordellini and Gonsalves coming in. Like they have depth on offense now. I'm feeling much more comfortable about the offense. Obviously, it comes down to health on that side of the ball, but feel very comfortable there. Defense, I'm feeling good, especially in the front seven. Need a free safety, but after we get that free safety in here, and I'm feeling pretty good too. But I'm not ready to say the Colts are going to win this division or anything, but I'm feeling comfortable and feeling confident right now with this Colts team. But you guys let us know in the comment section what you think. Did the Colts knock it out of the park with this draft? Do you hate it? Do you just want to scream and do whatever? Again, be respectful, but you can do whatever in our comment section as long as you're respectful to others. And if you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on Twitter. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We love you guys' ratings and reviews. And we'll be off tomorrow because we need to sleep a little bit this weekend. We'll be back with you guys so much more this next week. So make sure you guys are tuning in to Locked On Colts next week for full draft analysis.